My name is Sophia Nguyen, and at 23, I stood on the cusp of a dream I'd nurtured since childhood, a dream that shimmered like a distant star against the gray skies of my small town, Willow Creek, Michigan. The Rhodes Scholarship interview, a golden ticket to Oxford's hallowed halls, was mine. After years of relentless study, sleepless nights, and a heart fueled by ambition to shape global diplomacy. My application was a tapestry of perfect grades, glowing recommendations and essays woven with my vision for a connected world. But 3 days before my flight to London, as I reached for my passport in its sacred nook, a locked box beneath my desk, my fingers grazed only emptiness. Panic surged, a cold tide drowning my breath, and at our family dinner that night, my sister, Elise Tran, 26, met my gaze with a smirk that twisted my gut. Her eyes gleamed with a secret, and I knew deep in my bones that my dream was her target. This is my story, a saga of betrayal, resilience, and a mother's quiet complicity where love and loyalty were tested against the sharp edge of envy. Please subscribe to the channel, share your dreams in the comments, and let's uncover the truth together. Willow Creek was a town where dreams rarely stretched beyond the local diner or the factory's hum. My parents, Min and Lan Nguyen, toiled at the textile plant, dad as a shift manager, mom in accounts, neither having tasted college. In my early years, they framed my spelling bee ribbons and boasted of my straight A's to neighbors, their pride a warm glow in our modest home. My passion for global affairs sparked in 5th grade when Ms. Alvarez tasked us with a model UN project. While classmates grumbled, I dove into research, crafting a speech on peacekeeping that earned a standing ovation. Ms. Alvarez's words, "You could be a diplomat." Sophia planted a seed, a vision of a life beyond Willow Creek's borders. Elise, my elder by 3 years, was the family's darling, her charm a magnet, despite her lackluster grades and frequent detentions. Her beauty and easy laughter drew friends and parental favor, while I, buried in books, was the quiet shadow. Our differences sharpened over time, her resentment a growing thorn as my achievements stole slivers of attention. Elise started the sabotage at 10 years old, when she accidentally spilled grape juice on my science fair poster just hours before the competition. At 13, she deleted my English essay from our shared computer, claiming a glitch. By high school, her tactics became more sophisticated. She spread rumors that I had cheated on tests, which caused a principal's investigation that made me tremble until I was cleared. During my ACT test, she staged a fictitious crisis, calling the center about a fictitious car accident involving mom. I was pulled from the test only to find Elise relaxing at home, dismissing it as a mix-up. Nevertheless, I persevered, graduating valedictorian with a full scholarship to the University of Michigan, majoring in international studies, my eyes set on a world beyond my family's limited perspective. The Rhodes Scholarship was my Everest, a fully funded route to Oxford, a springboard for a career in diplomacy, and an opportunity to break free from the oppressive dynamic where Elise's jealousy cast long shadows. The application process was a grueling ordeal that involved months of writing essays, getting professors to endorse me, and learning international policy to prove my value. When the interview invitation came, I screamed, shocking my roommate. The interview took place in Oxford, a logistical beast, but I scraped money from waitressing shifts, sold my old laptop, and charged the remainder to a creaking credit card. This was my shot, my evidence that my dreams weren't the pipe dreams Elise made fun of. Weeks passed quickly as I practiced my responses, read up on trade wars and refugee crises, and bought a charcoal suit that gave me a sense of confidence I hardly had. Everything was in order, passport, visa tickets, and interview information tucked away in my travel folder until that morning, 3 days before I left, when I opened my lockbox. The loss of my passport was a gut punch, and I frantically searched my apartment, checking drawers, coat pockets, and even the freezer. An hour later, exhausted and breathless, I collapsed onto my bed, fear tightening. I had used my passport 2 weeks earlier for a scholarship form, locking it away myself, and someone had stolen it. My apartment was a fortress that only my closest friend Lynn, my parents, and tragically Elise could enter. A simple phone call revealed that Lynn hadn't been there in weeks. With my heart racing, I phoned home, and Mom's kind but preoccupied voice said, "Sophia, what's wrong?" Has anyone visited my place recently? I pushed myself to remain cool. Mom casually said, Elise used your spare key to get your sociology book for a class she's thinking about. We didn't think you'd object. She's family. My vision clouded dread and rage mixing, and I asked, Can I talk to her? After a moment, Elise's crisp, honeyed voice said, What's up, sis? My passport is gone, Elise. Did you see it when you were here? I gulped. With an unmistakable rhythm, she said, Why would I touch your passport? Her tone, refined by years of deflection, screamed guilt. I just got the book, chill. You're probably stressed from all this Oxford nonsense. Stress messes with your head. I hung up the phone with trembling hands and opened Instagram. Elise's most recent post broke my heart. It was a selfie with a triumphant smirk and the caption, Sometimes you have to pause someone's race to find your path. Besties, sorry, not sorry, Pars family first. Next to her coffee mug, a blue corner peeked out my passport, I was sure. Rage drove me to my car, and the 30-minute drive to my parents' house was a blur of adrenaline. Elise answered the door still wearing sweatpants at noon, her surprise short-lived before her mask settled. I want my passport, Elise. I saw your post, she said, leaning against the frame. You're paranoid. That was about my therapy journey, not you, she said, her eyes narrowed. Where is it? You're envious and are attempting to destroy my life because of this interview. With a harsh chuckle, she said, Are you jealous? Of you? Her remarks hurt and exposed a wound I didn't understand, but her history of sabotage protected me. You always run off acting as if you are too important for us, mentioning Oxford and diplomacy. You disrespect our family, she said. The half-admission was a blade, and my sister's betrayal was a chasm opening beneath me. This wasn't a prank or a small jab. This was my future, my escape, and my identity targeted by the person who should have cheered loudest. She crossed her arms and said in a low voice, Maybe I did. Maybe the universe wants you here with us, not chasing some fancy fantasy. Elise shrugged, but her eyes fluttered uneasily as I took out my phone and said, I'm calling Mom and Dad. They need to hear this. Dad responded, his voice rough from the manufacturing floor. Sophia, what's this about? After a lengthy pause, I calmed myself and said, Elise took my passport. I need you home to repair this. That's a hefty claim. Are you sure? I'm sure. Please come. Elise texted frantically on the sofa, her casual demeanor a fake. The wait was agonizing, and when my parents finally showed up, Mom's face was pinched. What's going on? I remained tough and said, Your father left work early. Elise took my passport. I need it for Oxford. Elise's tears flowed at once, and she said, I didn't take anything. She's blaming me like always. Look at this, she's boasting about it. Dad squinted as I showed them the Instagram photo with the blue edge incriminating. It could be anything. Sophia a notebook, and that caption is ambiguous. Mom gave Elise a hug. Did you take it? Honey, Mom's expression softened as Elise simulated her sob. No, Mom, that post was about my personal growth. Dr. Lee says I need to focus on myself, not on her. See, Sophia, you're overreacting, I said, my voice cracking. She has destroyed projects and spread falsehoods all my life, and you have always stood up for her. This is how I'm going to live. Maybe this Oxford thing is too much, Dad muttered, settling into his chair. There is nice employment locally, so why travel so far? The suggestion was ridiculous, a betrayal wrapped in compassion. This isn't about staying close. It's about Elise sabotaging me and you enabling her. Mom's voice was soft, but family's important. Elise is finding her way here. Maybe you could teach at the community college. Professor Nguyen sounds lovely. Elise's tears streamed down her cheeks. Why is it always about you? Dad's hand lifted, saying, Enough, Sophia. If Oxford is meant to be, it'll happen without this drama. Her anguish was genuine, but her actions created a wall between us. I'm struggling too, but you're too busy being perfect. His words broke something deep. My family, my foundation, had chosen Elise's lies over my truth. I left, shaking the drive home, a blur of tears. My apartment was a haven, but the clock mocked me. 3 days to Oxford with no passport and no hope. I collapsed, sobbing uncontrollably. The betrayal wasn't new, but the stakes were crushing. This wasn't a school assignment or a test. It was my chance to start over, and my family had stolen it. However, as darkness fell, a spark flickered, and I refused to let Elise win, not this time. I was no longer the child who forgave her spills and lies. Instead, I was a woman carving a path to Oxford, my dream a sacred fire. No sister could put out the air heavy my apartment. A battlefield where hope clashed with despair, but I stood ready, my spirit, a river cutting through stone, gathering strength to reclaim what was stolen. The dawn broke over Willow Creek, its pale light seeping through the curtains of my apartment, a quiet call to rise despite the weight of betrayal pressing against my chest. Elise's smirk from the dinner table haunted me, as did her words. Maybe the universe wants you here. A ticking clock mocked my situation as I paced the hardwood floor, my bare feet grounding me as I sorted through options. 3 days from now, I called the Rhodes Scholarship office, my voice steady despite the tremor in my chest, and asked. My passport was stolen. Is there any flexibility for the interview? In a gentle yet stern tone, the administrator said, Ms. The words, Nguyen, the committee meets only in Oxford, dashed my hopes. Video interviews create inequity. You must attend in person, or we'll withdraw your candidacy. I looked into emergency passports and discovered that even expedited services took 7 to 10 days too long. My credit cards, already strained from travel expenses, moaned under the weight of potential fees. Desperation clawed at me, but I pushed it back, my mind a hunter looking for a way. Sophia, what happened? I called my closest friend Lynn, whose voice was a lifeline through the mist. My voice breaking as I related Dad's remarks. Maybe this Oxford thing's too much. Lynn's rage mirrored mine as I described the theft, Elise's Instagram post, and the family's rejection. That's horrible. Elise has always been envious, but this... And your parents are giving her permission. What can I do, Lynn? Her words ignited a fire. We're not letting her win. As I waited, I searched Elise's social media and came across another post. A mysterious tale of her holding a coffee mug with the blue edge of my passport taunting from the frame, captioned, Some journeys need redirecting. Family ties. My rage flared like a wildfire, but I took a screenshot of it, my phone, a vault for proof. I'm out of time, she said, pausing, her voice determined. Arriving with a laptop and bagels, Lynn exuded enthusiasm. Eat, Sophia, your brain needs fuel. We sat at my kitchen table, breakfast crumbs flying everywhere, and discussed. What about a temporary travel document? Lynn said, scribbling frantically. We discovered that emergency travel documents were for people traveling overseas, not domestically. Would it be a good idea to take a car to the passport office in Chicago? Next appointment is in 2 weeks, and you'd need a life or death emergency, which this isn't technically, Lynn said, shaking her head when I inquired with a glimmer of optimism. We discussed crazy possibilities like if I could borrow a friend's passport. Is it illegal? Can I make a plea to the consulate? Presumably by midday, fatigue began to set in, but Lynn's voice broke through. Premium passport services are costly, but some claim a 24-hour turnaround. The service she identified costs $2,500, which was out of my price range. My funds were depleted, and my credit cards were maxed out. I can't afford it, I muttered, my voice shaking, and Lynn's eyes softened. What about crowdfunding? I asked. My pride ached as I said, ask for money. Your professors love you, your classmates understand your struggles, and if we share your story, people will help. Tell everyone that my future was stolen by my sister. It's embarrassing, Lynn said fiercely as she leaned closer. More embarrassing than allowing Elise to ruin your dream. Her reasoning cut through my barriers, and I remembered the evenings I had coached classmates and the professors who had sent laudatory letters. You don't have to spill the family drama. Just say your passport was stolen and you need funds for an emergency replacement. Had I not earned their support, we sent it to my closest contacts, including Professor Lynn, my advisor, Dr. Patel from Political Science, the director of the honors program, and a few classmates. Now we wait. Lynn said, squeezing my hand. But we don't stop. Let's prep the application for the passport service, just in case. We collected my birth certificate, social security card, and printed passport photos, my hands steadying with purpose. Dear friends and mentors, I've been selected for a Rhodes Scholarship interview in Oxford, but my passport was stolen. I need $2,500 for an emergency replacement to attend. Any contribution would mean the world to my future in diplomacy. Lynn edited, softening my formal tone into a heartfelt plea. Professor Lynn's email glowed when my phone rang in the evening. It said, Sophia, I've sent $250 via PayPal. You're too talented to miss this. Update me. Dr. Patel then wrote, $200 from me. The department needs a Rhodes Scholar. You're our star. My eyes stung and I felt a mixture of gratitude and shame. Lynn smiled. Seymour pledges came in $50 from a classmate and $100 from the honors director. By nightfall, we had raised $200, with hope blooming, fragile but real. I lay awake, the ticking of the clock serving as a reminder that time was passing, and Elise's betrayal as a shadow, but the support of my community as a light. I gripped my phone and whispered to the darkness, this isn't over. Elise sent me a chilling email the next morning. Heard you're scrambling for a new passport, clever. But some paths aren't yours to walk. Mom and Dad are worried. Her words were laced with danger, and her familiarity with my plan made me uneasy. Had she seen the social media crowdfunding posts? As we worked, my phone rang an unknown number, and I cautiously answered Sophia. It's Aunt Mai, your mom's sister. Her voice was warm and unfamiliar, and she said, Lynn messaged me on Facebook, told me about your passport. I want to help. I showed Lynn her face hardening and said, she's watching you. Let's change your locks before we do anything else. We called a locksmith, and the new keys were a little victory. My breath caught when Aunt Mai, who lived in Seattle and was estranged from Mom due to a feud I hardly understood, said, You don't know me well. But she added, But I know this pain. Your grandfather hid my art school acceptance letter once, said it wasn't for girls. I lost my chance. I won't let Elise take yours. I'm sending $1,500. Get to Oxford. Break this cycle. Tears streamed down my face, her words reflecting my struggle. Thank you, I said in a thick voice. After the call, Lynn hugged me, saying, We're at $2,700. Sophia, we can do this. The money was sufficient, but Elise's text lingered, a warning of her next move, and my resolve deepened like a river carving stone. Morning light spilled across Willow Creek, its golden threads weaving through the new locks on my apartment, a quiet vow of safety. But my heart pounded fiercely, a warrior's beat, as Elise's text, Some paths aren't yours, echoed like a rattlesnake's warning. My dream, a sacred flame, burned brighter with each obstacle, the Rhodes Scholarship interview. Now 2 days away, a horizon I'd reached despite the theft of my passport. Lynn's presence was a steady root, her belief in me, a wind pushing my sails. We had $2,700 enough for the premium passport service. But Elise's shadow loomed, her knowledge of my plan a storm cloud gathering. I stood in my kitchen, hands clutching coffee, my spirit a river swelling, ready to carve through stone to Oxford. We walked quickly like deer in a jungle. Lynn called the accelerated service at precisely 8:00. Marcus, a specialist, responded with a voice as serene as a silent lake, saying, Ms., we can process your passport in 24 hours if you get to the Chicago agency by noon. Bring your documents, proof of travel, and our contract. Chicago was a beacon, but time was circling. Lynn, with fierce eyes, said, I'm driving. You focus on the paperwork. We packed my birth certificate, social security card photos, and flight details, keeping my hands steady but my chest tight. As we loaded the car, my phone buzzed, a message from Mom saying, Sophia, we need to talk. Elise says you're causing trouble. Come home. The words stung, a mother's love twisted by my sister's lies. I texted back, I'm handling my future. I'll call later, my voice a stone, unyielding. My breath caught as Elise's web tightened, and I heard her say, Sophia, your mother called me. She's furious I'm helping. Says you're tearing the family apart. Elise told them about the crowdfunding. They know you're heading to Chicago. Lynn's music was a gentle chant against my racing thoughts as the highway to Chicago stretched like a sacred trail. My phone rang halfway there, and Aunt Mai's voice was as urgent as the edge of a storm. "Fear gripping," I said, and Mai laughed bitterly. "They might try to stop you. Lon said Min's worried you'll never come back. Be careful. Keep your passport close once you have it." Lynn said, his jaw clenched. "We're not taking chances. Let's secure your email and alert the agency." We changed my passwords, and I called Marcus. "Only I can discuss my application." I said, my voice ablaze, and he reassured me that my file was protected. The passport office in Chicago was bustling like a beehive, and faces were blurring as we made our way through the crowd. Marcus greeted us with a sharp suit and a reassuring nod, saying, "Your documents are solid. We'll rush this through." He led us to a special counter avoiding lines, and while we waited, Lynn nudged me, saying, "Look by the door." My heart stopped. Dad, his work boots scuffed, stood talking to a guard scanning the room, asking, "How did he know?" "Elise, she must have seen the service's Chicago address online, and your social media posts went viral," I whispered, settling into my chair. "My father's here. He might interfere." I texted Marcus, to which he replied, "Stay put, I'll handle it. Meet me at the side exit." Panic struck. Marcus calmly led us through an alley door a few minutes later. "Your father said you weren't allowed to travel, saying it was a family matter, but you're an adult. Your application is secure." And he left after security stepped in. She said, her voice steely. Relief washed over me, but my anger burned hotter. Dad's boldness, a fresh wound. Lynn made reservations for us at a hotel under her name, saying, "No way, we're driving back to face Elise," in a steely voice. The wait was a long night. My dreams jagged, Elise at the Oxford panel laughing as she tore my application. I woke up sweating, my resolve rekindled, and I went over my interview notes, Elise's smirking as I reviewed my interview notes. "Your passport is ready. Our courier is delivering it to the agency. Where can we meet?" Marcus called at 8:00. By 11:00, I was holding the blue booklet with tears in my eyes and its weight like a sacred stone. I whispered, "We did it," and Lynn gave me a fierce hug. My flight was that evening with a tight window, and we were going to return to Willow Creek, grab my suitcase, and head to Detroit's airport. Lynn's warning, "Elise might try something. Let's be quick," lingered throughout the tense drive back with my passport clutched like a talisman. As we got closer to my apartment, I felt sick to my stomach. Elise's car was idling outside, her silhouette in the driver's seat. Lynn said in a low voice, "She's waiting." "What's her game?" I braced myself, saying, "I need my suitcase. Let's face her." We walked over, Lynn by my side like a shield, and Elise came out with a worried expression on her face. "Sophia, I just want to talk. Mom and Dad are freaking out. Dad went to Chicago to save you from this mistake," she said, her eyes shining brightly, her voice dripping with fake concern. "I have my passport, Elise." "Move," I said, my voice a river steady, and she blocked the door, saying, "You're selfish. You know that." Though her comments revealed a hint of her fear behind the venom, her sabotage hardened my heart. "My flight is in 4 hours. Let me through," she said. "Running off to Oxford, leaving us behind. They're scared you'll forget us." She paused, then moved aside. "You'll regret this," she said in a low voice. I unlocked my door, Lynn checking for traps. Elise followed, but her words were arrows. "You think you're better than us. You always have. Mom cries every night, says you're abandoning her." I redirected her, saying, "I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm living my life. Something you could try." I grabbed my bags, Lynn in front of me, and Elise said, "Tell Mom and Dad I tried to stop you. They'll never forgive you." I stopped looking at her and said, "Tell them I'll call from Oxford. Tell them I hope they'll see my worth someday. And Elise, find your own path. Stop breaking mine. You're stronger than her. You know that, right?" Lynn's voice broke through as we departed her silence, a thick cloud, the trip to Detroit, a silent prayer. My passport, safe. My heart, a drum. As I passed security with my passport in hand, I felt a weight lifted. Elise's betrayal was a storm. I had weathered my dream, a flame burning bright, the plane waited a vessel to my future, and I stepped forward, my spirit a river unstoppable. I nodded, tears streaming down my face, and Lynn hugged me at the airport, saying, "Show Oxford who you are. Text when you land." The hum of the plane was like a gentle chant that carried me across the Atlantic. My passport was a sacred stone in my bag, its blue cover a shield against the storm of Elise's betrayal. My heart was a steady drum that pulsed with both triumph and trepidation. The Rhodes Scholarship interview was waiting like a mountain peak shrouded in mist. I leaned against the window, and the night sky was a vast blanket of stars, each whispering of possibility. Lynn's fierce hug at the airport lingered, her words, "Show Oxford who you are." A fire in my chest, and the chaos of Willow Creek, my family's opposition and Elise's poisonous schemes faded below, but their weight clung to me, a shadow I'd carry into the hallowed halls of Oxford. My spirit, a river unbroken, flowed toward a future I'd fought to claim, ready to stand on the threshold of my dream. The dawn at Heathrow greeted me with a gray drizzle, the air sharp and unfamiliar, and I clutched my passport, its pages crisp as I made my way through the maze of the terminal, my body heavy with jet lag, but my mind racing. The express train to Oxford rocked gently its windows, framing a countryside of rolling green, ancient and alive, and I tried to review my notes, trade agreements, refugee policies, my thesis on democratic transitions. But Elise's words, "You'll regret this," slithered through a snake in the grass, and I pushed them away. My breath a prayer, concentrating on the spires rising in the distance. Oxford's call a beacon pulling me forward. My guest house, a charming stone building near the examination schools, welcomed me with creaking floors and a kind host, Mrs. Hawthorne, who saw my tired eyes and offered tea. I took a quick nap, the bed's embrace a temporary haven, and then pushed my way into Oxford's foggy streets. The colleges towered their gates like guardians of centuries, their stones whispering stories of scholars who had gone before. I followed the paths, my charcoal suit folded in my suitcase, and my heart swelled with wonder. This was why I had fought not just for a scholarship, but also for a place among those who shaped the world with ideas. I spread my notes in a quiet cafe, sipping bitter coffee, becoming more focused. A text message arrived from Lynn, landed safely. I responded, "Here, nervous but ready," and went back to work. Professor Lynn then sent me a surprise email that said, "Sophia, you've overcome more than most to reach this room. Your resilience is your strength. Trust it." His words served as a grounding, reminding me that I carried not only my dream, but also the faith of those who had supported me when my family faltered. Sleep was a restless dance, my mind practicing responses, picturing the panel's piercing questions. At 3:00 a.m., I gave up, turning on the desk lamp to go over my notes once more. Memories of Elise's smirk, Dad's interference from Chicago, and Mom's tearful pleas blending with global conflicts. The morning broke cool and gray, and my interview day was a sacred dawn. I put on my suit, its fabric a silent armor, and pushed down toast with a knot in my stomach. Mrs. Hawthorne's smile was a blessing. "You carry wisdom, love. Go show them." The examination schools rose before me, their Gothic arches a portal to fate, and inside candidates buzzed their voices, a low hum of ambition. Princeton graduates, policy advisors, poets, all radiant with purpose. Doubt crept in a cold whisper, was I enough? Had my struggle to get there made me oblivious to my limitations? The interview room was oak-paneled with tall windows, casting soft light on 5 panelists, their faces a blend of curiosity and gravitas. The chair, Dr. Eleanor Grayson, a geopolitics scholar, gestured to my seat. "Welcome, Ms. Nguyen," I said, my breath, even my heart a drum. "Thank you for this honor," I said, my voice clear as a river. They introduced themselves, 2 Oxford professors, a former Rhodes Scholar in global health, a diplomat, and Dr. Grayson. Their questions, they explained, would probe my mind, my character, and my call to serve. My academic background, my thesis on emerging democracies, and my vision for diplomacy were all well known at the beginning. Drawing from years of study, I spoke passionately, allowing my words to flow effortlessly. When the diplomat Mr. Khalid inquired about a recent trade deal between the United States and Africa, I weighed the economic potential and environmental risks of the deal, offering mediation frameworks and receiving nods. Then Dr. Amara, a former Rhodes Scholar, changed the subject, saying, "Your application shows remarkable achievement despite limited family support. How have these challenges shaped you?" The question struck me like a stab to the heart, and I hesitated, thinking of a well-crafted response, but the truth demanded to be heard, and my fortitude was my best sacrifice. "My journey here was not a straight path," I said steadily, "because I come from a family where ambition, especially global ambition, is seen as a betrayal of roots. 3 days ago, a family member stole my passport because they thought it was a rejection of them. I had to deal with their opposition and even interference at a passport agency. But I rebuilt my path with the help of my academic community, who funded an emergency replacement. This taught me that determination means creating your own circle when the one you were born into fails. It taught me that obstacles are not just barriers, but teachers creating the resolve that diplomacy demands." The panel's eyes widened, and Dr. Grayson leaned forward. With a gentle grin, I said, "I discovered that community can be chosen, and that's a strength I'll carry into any challenge, thanks to crowdfunding, the kindness of professors and peers, and an aunt who understood my struggle." They looked at each other in unreadable quiet. Had I shown too much? Dr. Grayson's last question was a sacred call. "The road seeks those who fight the world's fight. What fight is yours?" Dr. Amara broke the silence by saying, "That's extraordinary, Miss Nguyen. Such resourcefulness is rare." Relief warmed me as the questions shifted to my research methods, my views on humanitarian aid, and my mentorship of first-generation students. I answered clearly and with a river-like voice. The fight against global fragmentation in a time of rising nationalism, challenges like climate change and migration demand cooperation. My generation must build bridges that honor differences while uniting us. I want to craft policies that weave nations together, not tear them apart," I said, leaning forward with my conviction burning brightly. I cited case studies, my heart open and my vision sharp. Dr. Grayson shook my hand and said, "You'll hear from us in 2 weeks. Your journey here is remarkable." I entered Oxford's sunlight, the spires shining, my body trembling with release, and regardless of the outcome, I had stood true, my voice unbroken by Elise's schemes. That evening, I wandered the colleges, the River Isis, reflecting my quiet joy. And I texted Lynn and Professor Lynn with cautious hope in my words. I avoided my family, preserving the purity of this moment. A stranger's smile felt like a sign as I ate in a pub. My dream, a sacred fire, burned steadily, my spirit, a river crossing the threshold to a world I'd claimed. As I flew back to Detroit, the golden spires of Oxford faded behind the plane's wing, my heart a drum still echoing from the Rhodes interview, a sacred fire burning steadily within. The passport in my bag, its pages now bearing the weight of my journey, was a talisman of triumph over Elise's betrayal. My family's doubt, a distant thunder, no longer shaking my path. Lynn's fierce faith, Aunt Mai's quiet strength, and Professor Lynn's wisdom had woven a circle around me, a community stronger than blood's faltering ties. However, as the Atlantic stretched below, a new horizon stirred, waiting for Oxford's verdict. A seed of resolve took root. My spirit, a river flowing free, ready to claim a life shaped by my own hands, unbound by those who had attempted to clip my wings. As I landed in Detroit, I prepared for darkness and half expected Elise or my parents to emerge with words full of blame or shame. However, the terminal was bustling with strangers, and I felt a wave of calm relief. Lynn waited, her smile alight, asking, "How'd it go, warrior?" Lynn pulled me into an embrace and asked, "You didn't just show up, you shone. Elise can't touch that." My apartment felt like a reclaimed lodge, the empty lockbox no longer a wound, but a scar, evidence of battles won. I told her the whole story, including the panel's piercing questions, my raw truth about Elise's sabotage, and the fight for global unity that I'd claimed as mine. I gave them everything, I said, my voice a steady stream. Now we wait. Lynn drove us to Ann Arbor, her laughter a soft chant. The waiting felt like a long winter, and every day was a test of my patience. I threw myself into my studies, stacking up international law papers as a way to keep my mind in check. Elise texted once, and her words were like a coyote's cunning call. Saw you got to Oxford. Guess you're unstoppable. Mom and Dad miss you. Mom called, her voice trembling like a reed. Sophia, we saw your trip. We're proud, but we worry. Come home for Thanksgiving. The invitation tugged, but their defense of Elise loomed. I need time, Mom, I said, my voice a stone. I'll call soon. Dad's silence felt more pronounced, and his absence confirmed their decision. I accepted Professor Lin's invitation to tea in his cozy office. He said, "Whatever Oxford decides, you've shown courage that few possess, with kind eyes." That's the true scholarship, he said, and I nodded. I'm learning family isn't just blood, it's who lifts you. He smiled. You're wise beyond your years, Sophia. Days passed and my phone was a silent sentinel. Then one Tuesday afternoon in the library, my heart leaped when I opened an email that read, Rhodes Scholarship Decision. My fingers trembled and the first line was blurred by tears. The library whirled and I was shaken by the quiet sobs. I had done it not just for myself, but for Lynn, my Lynn, and every soul that had brought me here. I texted Lynn, I got it. Her response was a flurry of excitement. Yes, warrior, party tonight. Professor Lynn responded proudly, You've earned this our star. Aunt Mai's voice message trembled. You broke the chain, Sophia. Live your truth. That evening, Lynn rallied friends and faculty to a local pub, champagne, sparkling like stars. I recounted the interview and Lynn raised a glass, saying, To Sophia, who carved her path through stone. The university's media team called, eager for a press release. A Rhodes Scholar is big news, they said, and I agreed, riding the wave. 2 days later, I sat in a TV studio, the morning news spotlight warm, and the host urged, Tell us about your dreams. I looked at the camera and she said, Believe in your fire. Find those who fuel it. Determination outshines doubt. My phone exploded with messages from classmates, professors, and strangers who were moved by what I had said. Then, as was to be expected, my family woke up. Dad called in a low voice and said, Saw you on TV, a Rhodes Scholar. That's something. The pride felt hollow and too late, and I said neutral, unwilling to close a gap that had grown. Elise texted, Guess you won TV stars, with a grudging tone and no remorse. I didn't respond, sabotaging a closed chapter. Mom's call was tearful, and I sighed. Mom, you chose Elise's lies over my truth. That's not love. I need space. I said. Weeks went by and my Oxford preparations were a sacred dance visa, housing course plans, and I stored my belongings with Lynn's family, whose pride was a warm embrace. Therapy turned into a quiet fire that helped me sort through the grief of a family lost some days, clear others shadowed by longing for a bond that never was. I saw family again, not blood, but those who celebrated my flight, Lynn's loyalty, my sacrifice, Lynn's guidance, my true kin. 3 months later, I boarded a plane to England. My passport stamped my heart a drum. Oxford welcomed me. Its ancient stones a new hearth, and I shared an apartment with 2 Rhodes Scholars, a Kenyan economist, and a New Zealand physicist, our home a weave of dreams. It was a mountain of academic rigor, but I thrived, my voice growing stronger in debates on global policy. I Skyped Lynn, emailed Lynn, and enjoyed Mai's care packages, their support a steady route. My family stayed far away. Elise's half-apology was riddled with excuses, and my parents' pride was tinged with control. But I accepted their limits, and my heart was free. The deepest truth came to light not in Oxford lecture halls, but in the furnace of my journey. We cannot choose our trials, but we choose our fight. We cannot force love, but we seek those who see our light. I ask myself and you, what dream will you guard even when hands try to bind your wings? My journey demonstrates that willpower can shatter treachery. Community can outshine blood, and your ambitions as sacred as stars are yours to claim. Share your fire below and allow it to ignite another.